Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Private pay tuition is growing at a rate unlike anything I have seen in many, many years. In today's episode of the Childcare Bridge, I wanted to talk about the latest trend that I'm sharing. So if you didn't tune in last week, or if you're new here, welcome. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to give you one trend, one tactic, one big idea that I am seeing that could potentially negatively or positively impact your childcare operation. And they're not necessarily going to be building on each other. And what I mean by that is there's some weeks where you're like, I've got it, that doesn't completely impact me. And then other weeks you might be like, hey, Michael, we have 75% or more that are not private pay at every one of our locations. Tell me more. So what I wanted to share today is the ability for you to control your destiny. It's a big thing. And for me, one of the main reasons I got into small business and entrepreneurship was to not have someone else dictate when I work, how much money I make, how much time off I want to have, who I want to work with. But what you don't realize when you look at this kind of private pay versus government pay, the government is now dictating terms. They're dictating how much money you're going to be receiving when you receive it. Now, at the time of this recording, we're also in a government shutdown. And that is not something that is normal to the place where there could be months and months where the government is shut down. But if you start to think about that and you are 100% or heavily reliant on government money, if that money stops flowing, how many months can you weather the storm? And it could be months, days, weeks, even hours without that funding. Now, the good news is you most likely will end up getting that money at some point. But that, to me, it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzy that I am in control. Now, in the past, centers that had the funding with government programs, it was like the holy grail because you considered it guaranteed money. But what's starting to happen is this delineation. And the delineation that I'm seeing are parents that are willing to continue to do the voucher payments or have the government funding, and that typically caters to lower income families. So I'm seeing that kind of in one basket. And in another basket, I'm seeing families that are demanding more. And when I say more, it's a lot of the stuff that I spoke about last week around more options, more flexibility. They want more details on curriculum. They want to know what you're teaching. They want more communication, more interaction. And these families traditionally are the ones that are doing private pay. But the shift that I am starting to see, unfortunately, is just sheer economics. And this is not me hating on any kind of types of families or can they pay or not pay. I want every child to have amazing childcare. But unfortunately, there's a widening gap. The middle class is literally starting to disappear. And when I'm looking at it, if you are 100% reliant on people that may or may not be able to pay you, that starts to open up an interesting challenge. So again, if you're looking at things right now, can you pay all of your bills if the government doesn't cut you a check for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Now, this delineation even further is happening not just because people are demanding and asking for more, but I'm now starting to see a lot more programs where these schools are trying to get in on that money, and or they're starting to offer universal pre-K rate at the school. So I'm actually starting to see these programs disappearing. Now, are they disappearing at an alarming rate? No, they're not disappearing at an alarming rate. But when I dive into the profitability, like when I really look underneath the hood, the centers that take private pay families more so than vouchers are much more profitable. Now, again, I'm not saying don't take on any vouchers, don't take on any of that. But when you want to start to look at your business model, you need to start to make some decisions. And the decisions are you going to take X? Are you going to do this? What is your curriculum, your programs? What does your tuition look like? All these different decisions kind of stack into things. But where I've really started to see things get squirrely is when you try and offer different experiences to different families. And that just gets to be very, very awkward. Now, I get it. Like, we've got clients that invest a lot of money with us. We've got clients that don't invest a lot of money with us. And I can't treat everyone completely equal. But it becomes challenging when you try and offer different curriculum, different learning styles. When you start to layer that on, things can get to be very awkward. And I'm seeing centers trying to accomplish that, where they're saying, well, Michael, these private pay families, they're paying $500 a month more in tuition, so we want to give them a premium experience. But think about the warm and fuzzy, think about the optics of that. The optics are just not good. Like, I can't conceptualize a situation where that really turns out well. So what do you need to do in this particular situation? For me, I like to pick one or the other. You might say, well, why wouldn't you want to do a blended approach? You can, but what I'm starting to find more and more as well is that parents are talking, and they're talking about things like tuition. And they're getting into these awkward conversations where, well, I'm paying $500 a week, and you're telling me that you're only paying $30 a week and the rest is getting subsidized. It just starts to kind of create, again, this awkwardness. It's just creating a lot of awkwardness. But where I am seeing this overarching trend that has nothing to do with the government shutdown, it has some to do with the level of flexibility, but on the bigger side, I don't know how much longer these programs are going to be around. That's what's starting to concern me. So when I look at it and I have said, well, I see them disappearing, but not at an alarming rate, they're not adding more of these programs. The programs, the funding, the different grants and things like that, they're going the other direction. They're not increasing, they're decreasing. But when I look at private pay, and I look at the centers that are popping up, and I look at which centers are the most profitable, they're the centers that are charging premium tuition, they're providing a premium product, and they're able to take care of everyone. They're able to take care of their staff, they're able to take care of the owner or the owners, they're able to provide an amazing service to the families because they're charging the level of tuition that they need. And what that also does is it allows them to have those flexible options. It allows them to be a little bit more nimble because they have the profits to back. Now you might argue a counterpoint and say, well, Michael, I'm running profitably at my locations and I do take the lion's share of voucher programs or aid and things like that. I'm not trying to discourage you from it. I'm trying to share what I am seeing across hundreds of centers that we work with every day, and then casting a wider net into my audience of tens of thousands of centers of what data are they looking at and what is the data starting to tell me. And the data, again, is starting to line up to say that government, being tied to these government programs, creates less flexibility, and these centers, again, are just not as profitable. So if it were me, what I would start to look at is how could you start to reverse the ratios? How could you start to get it where if right now you're 75% subsidies and 25% private pay, how could you start to reduce your dependency on all those programs? Now, it doesn't mean that those families are not going to have another spot. In most cities right now, there is not a shortage of childcare. Are there shortage of childcare spots in some centers or some areas? Yes, there are, but I'm not typically seeing that as like the parent feedback of, well, we just can't find a slot. The good news is knowing the ages of kids, like it's all public data. So the communities and the government and the counties, they're able to know what's going on and to see, is there going to be this huge shortfall? Now, on the flip side, I like to use that data to our advantage to know, are there some communities, some cities that are underserved? And those are spots where I advise the centers that we work with to go and open up a new location. If it's saying that, hey, there's demand for 5,000 slots and there's only 2,000 slots available, well, that shows a really nice opportunity that location needs more care. But I'm not hearing that all day, every day. So there are other opportunities for those families. They might not be the right fit families for you. Now, the other issue is that it puts you into this spot where, and I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. You got into this business to want to do good and have purpose and to just make that impact. And I want you to be able to make that impact. But there's this line in the sand where if you're not able to make the revenue and the profit that you need to stay afloat, if you go under, how are you helping anyone? Like, if you have to close your doors, if you end up having to close shop, your staff is out of a job, your family is going to be destroyed, all those enrollments. So if you can't make the math work, you owe it to yourself and your team and all the other families to do something about it. You've got to do something about it. And if we're having this conversation in a year, I have a bad feeling that more and more of these government programs are going to either be shut down, discontinued, lose funding. I just don't see that trend reversing to where all of a sudden every single community can give $2,000 a month per family and they can enroll in any center that they want. I don't see that happening. But again, I do see the families that are private pay, that are demanding more, but again, they're willing to pay premium tuition. Look at some of these franchises. Maybe you have one of these. How is Goddard or Children's Lighthouse or Kids Are Kids or Primrose, like how are they able to pay $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, invest rather, not pay, to open up these locations? They're able to do that because they're charging premium tuition, providing a premium product. They're offering private pay. So that is the lane. That is the audience that they're catering to. And there's nothing wrong with that. I talk a lot about premium pricing, and there's just that unfortunate difference right now of the middle class and lower class families. They don't have the funds to do it. But there are other programs and things like that that can assist them. But you can't simply always let it drag down to the place where you're saying, well, Michael, we can't pay our bills because we're only taking subsidy money, for example. You've got to work the math and see what ratios make sense, what percentages make sense so that you have a good foundation, a good working foundation. So my action step for you today is to dig in a little bit deeper. If you are taking subsidies and you're getting different vouchers and things like that, I need you to go and better understand the programs. I need you to evaluate the funding and the financial aspect behind these programs to see, are you at risk potentially? Like, are some of these programs, again, going to go away? And there's so many different programs. I can't address all of them. Every city, every county, there's different things all across the US. They're all called something different. I need you to be in the zone and looking at these numbers to make sure that you are staying ahead of the curve. And that is why I'm sharing these as trends for you. If you know that the trend is changing, if you know that government funding isn't necessarily, again, going away, but it's not increasing, what do you do with that? You start to shift and pivot to more private pay. You've got to, at times, get a little selfish. And I know that's not easy in this industry. But again, remember, if you go under, if you fail, if your ship sinks, everyone else goes down with you. So I need you to stand the test of time. Get out there, take some action, know all of your different percentages, investigate the programs, and start to see if you can position your product, your service as a bit more of a premium option so that you can start to improve your margins and stand that test of time. It's Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Tune in next week. We've got another trend coming your way.